And we are about to go live here on YouTube. I'm stunned by how early this show ended. But I am pleasantly surprised. I will say that. I'm certainly not complaining. I am certainly not complaining at an early finish for this pay-per-view. Just getting things in order here. And we are... Let's mute that. So we should be getting ready to go live here any moment. Just getting things in order. Hope everybody's having a good night. SummerSlam, one of the biggest shows of the year. Didn't quite feel like it. At least not until the final couple of matches there at the end. But we'll get going here in a second. We'll go through this entire show, and then a little bit later on, we'll take phone calls from you guys. We got the chat going on. Super chats are enabled. You guys in the chat can let me know if you can hear me, so I know that everything is hunky-dory, and we will get started here in just a moment. So if you can hear me in the chat, type in 316 for Austin 316, and that way I know that we are good to go, and we will get going here momentarily here on YouTube. I see 1316, so we must be good. Again, hit 316 in the chat, and we will begin here momentarily on YouTube. Worst pay-per-view of the year, says Cinema Critic in the chat. I don't know that I would go that far. Alrighty. Well, with that being said, as you can see here on the screen, Bret Hart greeting Seth Rollins. He walked up to Seth Rollins, saw the tape around his ribs, and said, I guess you're still being reckless, but good luck in your match, said Bret the Hitman Hart. I just like the fact that Bret could not be bothered to show up at Raw Reunion a few weeks ago. Supposedly because the summers in Canada are so good, he really does not want to be bothered, and he does not want to travel. So he basically said, you know what, thanks but no thanks. He was invited. He turned them down because he's living life. I don't know how many of you saw this the other day on Friday. Bret has a new pair of Converse sneakers with his likeness. His face is on the side of these sneakers. I really wanted a pair of these sneakers, although I don't know how much they're going for. Even I have my limits. But apparently they're only available, maybe they're sold out now. They were only available in Canada. Foot Locker in Canada. That does me no good. I'm in New York. I'm not going to drive to Canada to get the sneakers for Bret the Hitman Hart. But this is your Sound Off Extra review for WWE SummerSlam 2019. I am legitimately shocked that this show went off the air at 10:30 p.m. This is a pay-per-view that at one point it looked as though we might have as many as 13 or 14 matches on this card. And there were a lot of matches that were missing that they left off of the card. We had about, what would we have tonight? 10 or 11 matches, I think, total. And I certainly did not expect such an early finish, but I welcome it. The one thing I do not welcome is the amount of lag that I experienced on the WWE Network tonight. And it seemed to happen a lot before, at least earlier in the show, it seemed to happen a lot before the finish of a lot of the different matches. Makes no sense. Why would it happen right when the finish or like a big moment was about to happen? The commercials played fine on the pre-show. Didn't have any problem there. They made sure they got their shit in as far as the commercials go. But I'm experiencing this lag, so I put a tweet out, and the reaction that I got, clearly I wasn't the only one. I heard from so many people who said this show was unwatchable because of the constant lag. I assume it has to do with this WWE Network update that they pushed out recently. And there were people complaining about this last night during the NXT TakeOver show as well. But I had no issues during the TakeOver show. But tonight was a completely different story. So, I know we have a lot of people listening to this right now who legitimately did not see much of SummerSlam. They're looking to find out what happened. I shall do my best to try to inform all of you, because I was having some problems myself. But this is your Sound Off Extra review for WWE SummerSlam 2019 from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, at the Scotiabank Arena. Twitter poll is open for those of you who want to vote. Thumbs up, thumbs down on what you thought of tonight's pay-per-view. Just go to @Solomonster on Twitter, and I will flash the early results of the poll which, spoiler, I've already screen capped it because I can't do a screen cap later on if I'm in the middle of a live show. So the poll results will be a little outdated. But I've already capped the initial results. I'll flash them a little bit later on. And we will take some of your phone calls. I will flash the number a little bit later. I won't do it now. I'm not taking calls until the end. But you will be able to call in. Let me know what you thought of tonight's pay-per-view. Also, so you know, Super Chats are open for those who wish to donate. We usually have a pretty good response rate with that. So I thank everybody who donates, however little or however much it may be. I appreciate every one of you who do. But before we get into things here with this pay-per-view, we've got to transact a little bit of business here because our good friends over at The Ridge are once again sponsoring this review. They're kind enough to sponsor this SummerSlam review. And this summer, I could tell you here, I live in New York, and this summer has been absolutely brutal. I just wish I could wear shorts to work every day. Unfortunately, I can't do that. It's suit and tie every single day. But I do wear them every other chance I can. And the one thing I am very grateful that I no longer have to do is put my old fat wallet in my pocket. The less I can carry around in my pockets, the better. Which is one of the reasons that these wallets, these slim front pocket wallets from The Ridge are so great. They don't take up much room. You just carry what you need. You do, the styles that you can get your wallet in, a lot of different colors, a lot of different styles, titanium, aluminum, carbon fiber. I keep some cash, in the cash strap. I'm not a money clip guy, so I go for the cash strap. And I would say I carry probably about half a dozen cards on me. I got my driver's license, I got my Metro card, one credit card. Don't go too crazy now. And my gym ID. Because I'm such a buff guy. Yeah, anybody who's ever met me knows that. That's about it. That's all I carry around on me. So no more bulk. No more bulk this summer. No more bulk ever again. Get 10% off your first Ridge wallet with free worldwide shipping. How do you do it? Very simple. Go to ridge.com/Solomonster. Use the promo code Solomonster at checkout. That is ridge.com/Solomonster. And you can get 10% off courtesy of the Solomonster Sounds Off. See? Very simple. So we opened the night. I'm going to get into the whole pay-per-view here because I have mixed thoughts on this show. This show, in a lot of ways, it is a show that was salvaged, I would say, by the end, because I thought the last two matches, for very different reasons, were very enjoyable and went a long way to saving the show. When I say saving the show, it doesn't mean that every match was bad, but I saw a lot of people tweeting tonight saying, oh, that match was solid. That match was... They love using the word solid like it's a bowel movement. See, I don't look at that word as a positive thing. I think of solid, I think of me going to the bathroom. That, to me, does not imply this was such a great show. A lot of solid matches on this show. I'm old enough to remember a time when SummerSlam was one of the premier events of the year. It was an event that everybody looked forward to. It was an event that had big matches on the card. And more often than not, it was a show that delivered. It is arguably the second, unless you're a big Royal Rumble fan, then you would say third, biggest pay-per-view of the year. So to me, a lot of solid matches up and down the card, that don't work for SummerSlam. That does not make for a great SummerSlam. And until Trish Stratus and Charlotte hit the ring, this show was going down the tubes as far as great SummerSlams are concerned. And then the two of them went out there. I thought they had a very good match. We saw the Fiend. I'm going to talk about him a little bit later on. I still got goosebumps from that entrance. Not much of a match, but it wasn't about the match. It was about the reintroduction of somebody who I think could very well still go on to be the biggest star in the entire company, if they play their cards right. Tonight they did. Tonight is a great example of what can happen when they play their cards right. And then we had the main event for the Universal Championship, which I thought delivered. So, do you go thumbs up? Do you go thumbs down? I'll leave that to you guys in the poll. We opened the night with 3 kickoff matches, including a Cruiserweight Championship match that got bumped off of the main card between the champion Drew Gulak and the challenger Oney Lorcan, who has been splitting his time between NXT and 205 Live as of late. This sucked. not the match, the fact that I was experiencing so much lag during this pre-show that I barely got to see any of it. I wish I had a whole blow-by-blow review for you of what happened in this match, and I don't. But I did manage to catch the finish. Gulak was being dragged back into the ring, and he was holding on to the ring skirt. He was pulling the ring skirt as Oney Lorcan was dragging him to the center of the ring. So Lorcan decided to go ahead and stomp on this guy's hand, and while the referee went to go readjust the ring skirt, Gulak punched, it looked like he punched Lorcan in the throat, and then he hit the Cyclone Crash to retain the Cruiserweight Championship. This was disappointing because I had so many problems with my connection. I know a lot of you did too. During what I thought, if you go back and listen to my predictions, which I guess is pointless at this point, but if you heard them, I said that this had the potential to be one of the better matches of the entire night. And between the fact that I missed most of it and then they wrestled in front of half a crowd, I don't think these two men were done justice. But Drew Gulak retains. We had Apollo Crews taking on Buddy Murphy. Not much of a match. Murphy did hit a giant dive out of the ring, and Crews had some impressive moves. It ended with Eric Rowan attacking Buddy Murphy outside the ring for the disqualification. He was not very happy about Murphy snitching him out to Roman Reigns on SmackDown. I said this on the podcast, episode 612, that I recorded earlier today. Snitches get stitches, which I think somebody in the crowd was saying the same thing tonight. It's true. Snitches get stitches. Murphy found that out the hard way here. He gave him a power bomb right up against the post. Told Murphy to keep his name out of his mouth, did Rowan. So out next was Elias. He was out next to sing a song about Toronto, and he was about to make a joke about the Maple Leafs not being able to win the Stanley Cup when all of a sudden my feed froze. It's like it had a mind of its own. Before anything I wanted to see, it decided to go ahead and freeze and give me the finger. Then it came back, and he insulted the Blue Jays. This brought out Edge to a huge reaction. Nobody was expecting him to come out. He got into the ring. He gave Elias a spear, which I believe is the first time I can remember him getting physical at all on WWE television since that one angle they did in I guess it would have been 2014 probably, where Seth Rollins, he was part of the Authority was in the ring, and Seth Rollins threatened to give Edge a curb stomp onto Seth's Money in the Bank briefcase unless John Cena agreed to reinstate Triple H and Stephanie to power in WWE, which Cena did, because he's an idiot. But that was the last time I can remember Edge getting, and even there, I mean, it wasn't like he was doing much. He was just laying there. But, you know, notable, I guess, for the fact that Edge got physical here, and that was a nice little cameo for him to make in front of the Toronto crowd. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. Let's give me a second here. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. I'm getting messages up the wazoo here about this pay-per-view tonight. Against the Iconics for the Women's Tag Team Championships. So we got our one tag team match of the night after all. I was saying in the preview and in the predictions, I was stunned, as I'm sure many of you were. This is a company that, you know, maybe more than most, loves their multi-man matches, right? They love their tag team matches, their 6-man tags, their 8-man tags, their triple threats and fatal 4-ways and 5-ways. And 12 ways. They love their multi-man matches. We didn't have a single tag team match on this pay-per-view tonight. We had one tag team match that was added 2 hours before the show, and that was on the pre-show. And that was the Women's Tag Team Championship match. No Raw Tag Team title defense. No SmackDown Tag Team title defense. I was stunned. So I guess Alexa Bliss was wearing gear that was inspired by Buzz Lightyear of Toy Story. Corey Graves was freaking out about this. This was very annoying. This match was no good. Alexa won with Twisted Bliss on Peyton Royce. At least I think she did. It sounded like she did because my feed froze when she went for the pin. It's like the network was trying to spare me from some kind of pain. It should have froze at the start of this match, if that was the case. So this was really not much of anything. Pay-per-view opened with Pyro, which was nice to see, very unusual. And the Raw Women's Championship match, a submission match between Becky Lynch and Natalya. A mixed reaction for both women coming out, including Natty here in Toronto. Becky got a lot of chants, but there were also some audible boos for her as well, especially later on. The boos got worse for her as the night went on, but when these two women initially came out, you would think maybe Natty would get a huge reaction. I wasn't in the building. Maybe if somebody else was, they'll let me know if I'm wrong about this, but it didn't strike me as being any kind of overly special reaction for her. So Natty is scaling the ropes and traps Becky in a sharpshooter in the ropes in the corner, which I don't think is something I've ever seen before. I've seen Bret Hart and other wrestlers give people a figure four around the ring post outside. I've seen that. But I can't say that I've seen a sharpshooter in the ring around, basically kind of around the post. I mean, I guess it was around the turnbuckles. Becky manages to break free, tumbles out to the floor. Back inside, Natty hits a superplex, tries for a basement drop kick to Becky, but falls short, which looked very bad. Becky countered that into a sharpshooter. Natty fights out of it. Natty puts the disarmor on Becky. I guess turnabout is fair play. Becky escapes. Natty gets Becky in the sharpshooter. Toronto is loud. They love their sharpshooters. And I'm sure Bret Hart was backstage very indifferent to all of it. Becky makes it to the ropes and Toronto boos. And Natty drags her back to the center of the ring, tries again for the sharpshooter, but Becky grabs her arm, transitions into the disarmor, and Natty holds on for a while. But she has no choice after a while but to tap. Becky Lynch retains her Raw Women's Championship. I thought the match, it turned into a good match. I would say it was a good match. It wasn't a great match. It wasn't a terrible match. It was a good match. And the right winner. Then we had Goldberg and Dolph Ziggler. A lot of people were very giddy about this match. If you heard my prediction show during the week, I made it very clear I thought there was exactly a 0% chance of Dolph Ziggler winning this match. Unless Matt Riddle were to run out and attack Goldberg, there was exactly goose egg. That was Dolph's chances of winning this match. But I said, if by hook or crook, if by some chance he manages to win this match, I would go ahead and buy a boat. And I would rename my podcast, at least for 1 week, Solomonster Sounds Off. Because I knew there was 0 chance of Goldberg not winning this match. You should never have doubted me. This should have been obvious to anybody with a brain. This was the only possible outcome to this match. So Goldberg comes down. Ziggler hits a super kick, goes for a pin, gets a 1 count. Second super kick, and again a quick kick out by Goldberg. Dolph setting up for a third kick, and Goldberg spears this guy so hard, Amy Schumer could feel it. Jackhammer held him up for a good 5 or 6 seconds in the air, or at least it felt like 5 seconds. And that was it. See you later, Dolph Ziggler. 1, 2, 3, Goldberg wins. This went exactly the way that I thought it would. It went exactly the way that it should have. And sorry, ladies and gents, there will be no Solomonster Sounds Off next Monday on the high seas. And no, I was never nervous about the outcome of this match because, as I said, Dolph had no chance. He was in this match for one reason only. Goldberg was looking for redemption. Goldberg needed a performance where he looked dominant. He needed somebody in the ring that they could rely upon to make him look like $1 million. Who better? Who better in this company for that kind of role than Dolph Ziggler? And he showed why here. He sold that spear like death. He made Goldberg look like this was the Goldberg of old from 1998 when he was splitting guys in half with that move. So, and by the way, I mentioned Matt Riddle a little while ago. Riddle did this watch-along. I guess WWE has this watch-along thing where some of the wrestlers are in the back and they're watching certain matches and they comment on them in real time. And so Matt Riddle was there. And Matt Riddle told a story, I guess, tonight where he claimed, I don't think he was joking, I assume he was telling the truth here, that he encountered Goldberg backstage. And Goldberg, of course, is not very happy. I think he blocked Matt Riddle years ago, I think, on Twitter, because Riddle's been talking shit about him for a long time. And especially of late. He's had nothing nice at all to say about Goldberg. He thinks he's just a fraud and he's nothing special. And he does not like Goldberg. That is not an angle. It's not a gimmick. He does not like Goldberg, and I assume Goldberg does not like him. And so Riddle, I guess, is talking to him backstage, and he kept saying bro. Because he says bro after everything, right? Everybody he talks to, probably his own parents, his own family, he probably says bro after every sentence. He can give Vince Russo a run for his money. They could have a bro-off one day on television. So he keeps saying bro, and he says Goldberg said to him, "I'm not your bro." I guess Goldberg doesn't really have a sense of humor about what Matt Riddle has been saying about him. And I very much wish I could have been there for it. Supposedly there's video. I hope if there is video, it gets posted somewhere. Anyway, Goldberg went to leave, and Dolph got on the mic and said, "You know what? That was like getting hit by a baby. He's taunting this man to come back to the ring and do it again." So Goldberg obliged, and he hit another spear for good measure, and Goldberg leaves, and again, Dolph gets on the mic, and he's selling the ribs, and he's laying on the floor, and he says, "Anybody can get lucky twice." I can attest to that. Did I say that? He called Goldberg a laughingstock in this business, and Goldberg stormed back down to the ring. He helped Dolph to his feet. He was teasing that he kind of felt sorry for the guy. He was going to walk away. He helped him up to his feet. And instead of exiting the ring, Goldberg hit the ropes on one side. He hit the ropes on the other side. He wanted to build momentum for one final spear, and he broke this man in half. This was pure murder on live television. So, ahoy! Goldberg wins. Goldberg, much like Undertaker last month, he redeems himself after that debacle in Saudi Arabia. Dolph, he was the perfect opponent for this. Because, as I said, he could sell better than anybody else could a beating from this man. And if that is his last match, it's a better way to go out than his previous last match against The Undertaker. But I don't believe for a second that we have seen the last of Goldberg in the ring, especially not with these reports that he and Paul Heyman are very tight. Heyman has some degree, anyway, of power on Monday Night Raw. And Heyman may want to use him from time to time as the old legend who comes back. So I don't believe for a second that we have seen the last of Bill Goldberg in WWE. We had Ricochet and AJ Styles for the United States Championship. Ricochet was out there in a bodysuit, dressed like Nightwing. I actually thought he looked pretty badass. Kind of remind me in a way of the full bodysuit that Rey Mysterio, that purple bodysuit that Rey wore to the ring for his Halloween Havoc match against Eddie Guerrero. So Ricochet does this cool thing early in the match where, you got Anderson and Gallows outside the ring, and they're standing there. And Ricochet basically walks across each of their shoulders en route to leaping off and hitting a Rana on AJ Styles out on the floor. That was unique. Can't say that I've ever seen that before. So the story here was that AJ was working over Ricochet's legs. He was trying to ground him. So they had a decent match with what I thought was a cool finish. But this was nothing at the level of what these two are capable of. Like, if they had gone full throttle, then it would have been a very different match than the one we got tonight. They took away a good part of what makes Ricochet, Ricochet. And, I know why they did it. That's the story that they wanted to tell. But it limits what these two guys are able to do in there when you do that. So anyway, Ricochet tried for a suplex. His leg gave out. Calf crusher by AJ. Ricochet counters into an Anaconda Vice. AJ breaks it. So Ricochet hits a Northern Lights suplex, rolling through into a suplex. He tried to muscle AJ up for a vertical suplex. Only got him part of the way, then dropped him. Ricochet hit a moonsault. He was out on the apron. And he basically ran up to the post and kicked off the post and hit a moonsault and wiped out, I think it was Gallows, I believe, on the floor. So he goes back up top, and Ricochet goes for a corkscrew 450 on AJ Styles in the ring. AJ, though, catches Ricochet. In midair, he catches him by the legs and immediately turns it into a Styles clash for the win. I was sitting here watching this, and when he hit that Styles clash, I thought the whole move, the whole sequence looked great, and I was just sitting here hoping he would pin this guy with that move. I mean, I had Ricochet pegged to win, so, my prediction was wrong. But when I saw him hit that move, I said, I hope he wins with that. God, I hope he wins with that. And I was very happy when he did. I've seen, and again, I'm not trying to shit on TakeOver, because I thought TakeOver overall was a great show last night. But in my TakeOver review this morning, when I recorded the sound off, I was talking about Johnny Gargano and Adam Cole. And that match they had last night, this was the match between the two of them, where I felt towards the end it just completely jumped the shark. Some of the moves they did in that match, the Panama Sunrise and stuff, Canadian Destroyer off the top rope, and all the kickouts, it got too much for me. I don't think my heart could have taken another big move like this with another big kickout. So thankfully AJ got the pin. After the match, Anderson and Gallows gave Ricochet a magic killer, and the OC left together. It keeps the OC strong, which is fine. They have all the gold. But where Ricochet goes from here, I would have to assume there's going to at least be one more pay-per-view match with AJ where maybe he wins the championship back, because if he doesn't, I'm not sure where Ricochet goes from here on that Monday Night Raw brand. But either way, I don't believe that this issue is over between them. I want to give a shout-out to everybody in the chat room right now. We have, how many people we got? We got almost 2,000. All right, that's pretty good. We got almost 2,000 people listening live right here. You are listening to the Sound Off Extra review for SummerSlam 2019 here on the Solomonster Sounds Off YouTube channel. I just want to check really quick, because I know we've already got a few super chats here. So I want to make sure I acknowledge. Wow, we got a whole bunch of them actually. Holy cow. So I want to give a shout out to your boy Will, who made a donation here. He said, finally able to catch a live stream. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you. We have Garrus Vicarian. It was slightly refreshing that there were no tag team matches on the show. All right, well, there's one vote from somebody who didn't mind not having any tag team matches on the pay-per-view tonight. We certainly get enough of them on TV every single week. We have Happy Anderson, who left a super chat. He said, I watched one match from Survivor, I'm getting ahead of myself. I watched one match from SummerSlam. You know the one. Well, it better be the Fiend. It better be the Fiend against Finn Balor, or you and I are going to have a chat. BWT56, thank you very much. I appreciate it. He says, everyone thought Bray was awesome tonight. How long before they mess it up? I give it about 6 months. I'm going to actually give them the benefit of the doubt and say it takes 6 months instead of 3 months for them to fuck this up. Stephen Jenkins, this show seemed more like a B-grade pay-per-view, like Payback, than one of the big four pay-per-views that SummerSlam is usually known for. Well, it's hard to disagree. It is hard to disagree with that. Stephen Hallistick, thank you very much. And also, we have Anirudh Swami, who just made a donation. So thank you to him as well. Again, the super chats are open for those of you who wish to do so. We had Bayley and Ember Moon for the SmackDown Women's Championship. I thought this match was just pretty boring. Crowd did not seem to care about this match, which was kind of sad. Bayley got Ember in the Tree of Woe in the corner and hit a springboard elbow drop off the ropes for a near fall. Later on, Bayley was on the top rope and Ember caught her with a Super Hurricane Rana off the top rope. Ember blocked a belly-to-Bayley suplex. Ember later on goes up, I assume trying for the Eclipse, but Bayley ran up there and took her down way off the top rope with a belly-to-Bayley for the win. So we did not get an Ember Moon turn when this was over, as I was hoping maybe there would be. But they can still do it on Tuesday. I'm not giving up hope yet. They could still do something between these two on SmackDown this week. I just think, again, the reason I keep saying heel turn, and I understand that, Ember has her fans and she is well liked, but I just think she needs more of an edge. And that would be one way to do it, because it has not been a good few weeks on television for Ember Moon. She has not looked good. Ever since Bayley handpicked her to be the number one contender, she has looked like a fool. More often than not on television. She has not looked intimidating. She has not looked like somebody who should be challenging for the Women's Championship. But I thought this match was very forgettable. Again, this is SummerSlam, and I'm thinking at this point in the show, when I saw this, a lot of these matches just felt like something that you would see on any given Monday night. What happened to SummerSlam being a big show? What happened to the days of SummerSlam feeling like it was truly one of the big 2 or 3 pay-per-views of the year? That's what I was thinking by the time we got to this point in the show. I was not impressed. Then we got Kevin Owens coming out for his match against Shane McMahon. Stipulation is that if Owens loses, he must leave WWE. Shane comes out, he grabs a mic. He announces that Elias is going to be the special enforcer for this match. We got loud Kevin Owens chants from the crowd in Toronto. All of his fellow Canucks, they loved Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens came across like a big-time superstar tonight. Pop-up powerbomb attempt about midway through the match by Kevin Owens. Shane countered it into a DDT for a near fall. We had a sharpshooter attempt by Shane McMahon. And look, it's a McMahon attempting a sharpshooter in Canada. It got exactly the kind of reaction you would have expected. Owens blocks it. He hits a pop-up powerbomb. Has the match won, but Elias is distracting the referee. So Owens reaches down. He picks up a steel chair. Elias had a chair in his hand when he initially tried to get the referee's attention. The chair was laying on the floor. Kevin Owens picked it up. And Shane McMahon is looking at him. He's on his knees. And he's looking at Owens and he's taunting him. He's begging him to go ahead and hit him with the chair because he knows that if Owens does it, he's going to be disqualified. And if he's disqualified, he must leave WWE. Owens doesn't fall for it. Shane slaps him across the face. Owens hits a super kick, followed by a senton off the top rope. Immediately heads to the opposite corner. Hits a frog splash. Owens has the match won, but Elias pulls the referee out of the ring. And Owens hits a cannonball off the apron. He wipes out Elias and the referee. So then he sees the chair. Take a second here. Take a little swig of my beverage. I'm almost positive I'm getting sick. You ever get that feeling where your throat all of a sudden feels very sore and you just know that something bad is about to happen? That's the exact feeling I got about 2 hours ago. Oh my goodness. I've been burning the candle at both ends all weekend. I did the House of Glory show. I recorded a 3-hour podcast this morning. I got no sleep. SummerSlam was about 16 hours long tonight, or at least it felt like it. And now we're live on YouTube. So it's no surprise, of course, I'm getting sick. So anyway, bear with me here. So Owens wipes out Elias and the referee with a cannonball. And he grabs the chair. And he uses it on Elias. He is just waylaying Elias on the floor with this chair. He gets to the ring and he considers using the chair on Shane. The referee, though, recovers and he sees this. And the referee says, oh, you better not, or I'm going to disqualify you. So Shane, or Owens rather, he says, okay, no problem. Drops the chair. Referee goes to remove the chair from the ring. And in doing so, Owens goes ahead and he kicks Shane in the nuts. And then he hits a stunner to win the match. This was overbooked, but the fans loved it. They were totally into Kevin Owens. They seemed to enjoy it, so it was fine, for what it was. I do fear that the finish means that this stuff with Shane still is not over yet. Because Shane can just turn around and say, hey, Kevin Owens should be fired. He cheated. He kicked me in the balls. And then it leads to another match, maybe with some kind of stipulation, which I assume is where this is headed. That's just how it came across to me. Also, Owens wiped out the referee with that cannonball. So that's 2 times that Shane McMahon can point to Kevin Owens as, he should have lost the match. So I'm sure we have not seen the last of the issues here between these two men. Just give me 1 second here. I'm dying here. Just give me a second. Oh my God. I might actually die here on the air tonight. Oh my goodness. I can't believe I'm getting sick. Who gets sick in the summer with a cold? I'm pretty sure that's what this is. Oh my God. Summer colds are the worst. When you get a cold in July or August, it's terrible. Charlotte Flair. I'm going to try to get through this here. Charlotte Flair against Toronto's own Trish Stratus. This is where things finally picked up. I really enjoyed this match. It got better as it went on. I thought it started, a little on the slow side, but it built nicely. And you know what? For somebody who hasn't wrestled, or at least someone who has not wrestled consistently in many, many years, I thought that Trish Stratus looked really good here in this. I mean, Trish always looks good, but I mean, in terms of her wrestling and her timing and everything, I thought she looked great. She looked like she hadn't really missed much of a beat here in this match. Charlotte missed a moonsault off the top. She went back up later on, and Trish came in. She tried that handstand hurricanrana. That's one of Trish's signature moves. where somebody is in the corner, Trish runs in, does the handstand, and tosses them off. Charlotte had her scouted, and she caught Trish's legs. Trish was hanging upside down. She muscled herself up, and now you got to picture this. So Charlotte is on the top rope. Trish muscles herself up. She's basically sitting in Charlotte's lap. And the two of them now are exchanging shots. And anyway, Trish turned this into a super Rana off the top rope. Very impressive. Doesn't get the pin, but they recover. Big boot by Charlotte. She goes for the figure four. Trish rolls her up for a near fall. Trish then locks in her own figure four. Corey Graves is freaking out because Trish is flat on her back. So he says she's pinning herself. I thought to myself, how do you do that? How do you pin yourself? Don't you have to be covered? I mean, does the fact that their legs are touching, does that count as Charlotte covering Trish? Because if not, Corey Graves needs to shut the fuck up. So finally, she must have heard him and was just annoyed by the sound of this man's voice. So Trish bridged up, so her shoulders were no longer down, and she bridged up into a figure eight of her own. And Charlotte was able to reach the ropes. Trish hit Stratisfaction. She hit it perfectly. I always hold my breath on that because, she's botched it a few times over the years. Look, it's easy to miss the ropes. You got to jump up into the air. You have to kick off the top rope. And there have been times over the years, in TV matches or whatever, where she's botched the move. Look, shit happens. Sometimes it's not as crisp as you would like for it to be. But she hit that move perfectly here, and she only got a 2 count out of it. Back up to their feet, they're trading chops back and forth. Chick kick by Trish, only good for a 2 count. In the end, Charlotte got the figure 4, bridged up into the figure 8, and Trish Stratus was forced to tap out. There was never any doubt to me that Charlotte was winning. She had to win. She is their big fish. Trish Stratus is, I'm sorry to say, Trish Stratus is old news. She's already in the Hall of Fame. She has not wrestled full-time since 2006. This was a cameo. This was a special attraction. Charlotte is the one that, God, you listen to them on commentary. They flat out said tonight, at least during the pre-show, I certainly heard, I forgot who it was. Somebody said, she's the greatest, or maybe the greatest of all time. Might have been Coach. Coach was clearly dropped on his head a few times as a child. She was the greatest of all time. Look, Charlotte may well go on to become the greatest of all time. I would hold off on calling her the greatest of all time just yet. But that's clearly how they want to position her. And I said this when I did the predictions. I said, look, they want to pad this woman's resume. You don't think that of all the accomplishments, all the women's championships, and headlining the first WrestleMania for the ladies in the main event and everything else, that they wouldn't want to pad her resume by adding a win over Trish Stratus? What a great thing to put on this woman's resume and pad it and beef it up. So of course she was going to win. So that was hardly a surprise. But, you look at Trish Stratus, and Trish had the storybook retirement in 2006 when she won the Women's Championship in Toronto in her final match against Lita. But to come back 13 years later and have a great match, even in defeat, in her hometown, this was a hell of a way for her to go out, if this really is the end. And she was claiming in interviews that she was doing this week in the run-up to the pay-per-view, that this was it. This was going to be her final match. Now, we know how that goes in wrestling as far as final matches go. We thought it was her final match in 2006. So she says that now, but she seemed pretty adamant that this was it. This was it, the end of the road for her. And anyway, credit to both ladies. I thought Trish looked great. Charlotte played her part well, as well. She gets credit as well. Trish got a nice ovation when the match was over. She posed in each corner. I thought it was funny. She posed in 3 out of the 4 corners. And she went to go leave, and the referee had, this was on camera, and the referee had to tell her, no, you got to go pose in the other corner. Everything is so choreographed, it's disgusting these days. If you've ever been to a WWE television event, whether it's a TV, pay-per-view, I'm sure, or takeover, I'm sure you've seen the same thing that I have. Watch the referees. When the matches are over, watch the referees. They have no shame. They serve one purpose. The referee is there on the outside, whether he's standing, whether he's kneeling. His entire role is to look up at the person and give them their cues and say, smile, wave, go to this corner, go to that corner. Is it really that difficult to know? But everything has to be choreographed right down to the letter. So I thought that was funny. But anyway, she got a nice reaction. I thought this was the best thing on the show up to this point. They showed Seth Rollins in the back getting ready for his match when Bret Hart... Oh, let me switch slides here. I have the picture. I may as well show it. There we go. Should be popping up there for you on screen. So we had Seth Rollins. He was in the back getting ready for his big match with Brock Lesnar in the main event when all of a sudden Bret Hart walked up to him, and I guess, Bret wanted to wish him well in his match later tonight. Bret looked like he would absolutely rather be anywhere else but where he was tonight. He probably wanted to be home with his wife, relaxing with his new Converse sneakers. I don't blame him. Think about it. Bret Hart is just in like the perfect position right now. He gets invited to these different things, right? So AEW wanted him to come to Vegas to Double or Nothing and unveil their new championship. So he went to Double or Nothing. He made a surprise appearance. He got to debut the new AEW Championship belt. And everybody made such a big deal about, oh, what a betrayal. What is WWE going to think? WWE? Who gives a shit what WWE thinks? Bret Hart is not beholden to WWE. Bret Hart is, what is he now? Is he 60? Is he 60? I don't know if he's 60 or not. He's either in his 50s or 60. Whatever he is. He's been through a lot of shit in his life. A lot of bad shit. A lot of good shit, but also a lot of bad shit. Now he's got a beautiful wife. Sure, he's got money in the bank. He's got a great fan following. He's a huge hero up in Canada. Probably has a nice house. Living a good life. You think he cares? You think he cares what WWE thinks? I'm sure when AEW invited him, he was honored and he said, sure, I'll come. He didn't bat an eyelash. Look at the year this guy has had. He went into the Hall of Fame for a second time. He was almost killed by this guy in a Rasta hat, some frickin' moron, who hopefully is still sitting in a jail cell somewhere. So he gets attacked, and immediately goes back to his speech. Like a boss. Like nothing even happened. And he finishes the speech. Made a little cameo at WrestleMania this year. He goes from the Hall of Fame to WrestleMania. He goes from WrestleMania in front of 80,000 people to Double or Nothing for a completely different company to unveil their new championship in May. Then, in walking back when the segment was over, he fell off the stage. Yeah. He fell off the stage. Thankfully, he didn't get injured, at least not seriously. He was okay. But that must have been quite the sight. And here he is now. Here he is at SummerSlam, wishing good luck to Seth Rollins. Bret Hart does what he wants when he wants. We had Kofi Kingston and Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. This was a match that had a lot of history behind it. I was a big fan of the video packages that they used in the build-up to this matchup. This is a history that goes all the way back between these two to the year 2009. That's how far back this goes between these two guys. You know the story. Kofi was on the ascent. He gave Orton the boom drop in Madison Square Garden. The building exploded that night. That was a fun show to be at. And then they had a match on television, and Kofi botched an RKO, and Orton flipped out and called him stupid, and all of a sudden, Kofi's big push came to a screeching halt. I'm sure that was all just a coincidence. So they've turned it into a storyline here where Kofi says, Orton held me down. He held me back. Of course, in kayfabe, this makes no sense because what does that even mean? Orton, that same year that all of this happened, had punted Vince McMahon in the head. He had practically sexually assaulted Triple H's wife in the ring with Triple H handcuffed to the bottom rope in the build-up to their WrestleMania match. I mean, what kind of pull did this guy have with the McMahon family that he could have used his influence to derail Kofi Kingston's push? So, if you really stop and think about it in kayfabe, none of this makes any sense. But, I appreciate them at least being consistent and drawing on history. I do appreciate that. But as far as the match goes, this was a huge disappointment. They did now what they did here, they did a similar finish last year at SummerSlam, 1 year ago, in the WWE Championship match between AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. Now that match ended in a disqualification. Joe was taunting AJ's wife. He was standing on the announce table. He was taunting AJ's wife, Wendy, in the crowd. So that ended in a DQ. AJ was bleeding. He flipped out. He beat the piss out of Joe with a chair. I remember liking that finish. Just the way they did it, I thought it was well done, even though it was a DQ. And it kept the feud going. This ended in a double countout when Randy Orton, I guess, forgot that there was a match going on. This after he hit Kofi with an RKO coming off the top rope, and instead of pinning him and winning the championship, he decided to lay there and laugh at himself. I have to assume that he was probably laughing at the stupid finish that was booked. That's what he was laughing at. You know, maybe if they would have set this up better, I would have bought into it more. Because, again, the way they did Joe and AJ last year, you could have also had people chanting bullshit. I don't remember there being... maybe there were. I don't remember there being bullshit chants last year. But this was just fucking stupid. This is not how you end a WWE Championship match at SummerSlam. Match itself was okay. Orton dropped Kofi on the announce desk a few times. Superplex attempt by Orton that Kofi was able to turn into a tornado DDT. Later on, Kofi hit a truss fall onto Orton outside the ring. Then later on came the crossbody. Off the top rope by Kofi, right into an RKO by Randy Orton. And Orton laid there. He laid there. He laughed. Maybe he was on something. I don't know what the deal was with Orton here. Finally, though, Kofi rolled out to the floor, right in front of his wife and son. Orton followed him outside. He was staring a hole at Kofi's family. He was in a trance until the referee counted them both out. The bell just rang. There was no indication that, the referee's counting, they better get back in. All of a sudden, the bell just rang. I guess the idea was that Orton was supposed to be taunting Kofi's family or something, but he really wasn't. He was kind of staring at them, but it wasn't like he was talking to them or touching them or doing something horrendous. But that didn't stop Kofi from flipping out on him after the bell, and he grabbed a kendo stick from under the ring. He used it on Orton as a weapon. Back in the ring, he hit Trouble in Paradise. So I guess this feud must continue. And I get that that's the idea. That's why they did what they did. But as a finish to a WWE Championship match at SummerSlam, the way they did this sucked. This sucked. A terrible way to finish this match. And there may have been a better way to do this without having a decisive finish. This, though, this was not it. Then we had Finn Balor against the Fiend, Bray Wyatt. And this right here is where things picked up. I've been looking forward to this match for a very long time. We've seen enough Firefly Funhouse segments, and it was about time that we got to see what Bray Wyatt, the new and improved Bray Wyatt, the new slimmed down Bray Wyatt, who looks to be in the best shape of his career. It's about time that we got to see him in action to see how different he truly was going to be. So tonight was going to be a big test. This was the best thing on the entire show, including the main event. This was the highlight of SummerSlam 2019. Bray came out to a remixed rock version of his old theme music. He had the Fiend mask on, which he is wrestling in. His new lantern. He still got the lantern. Lantern's a little bit different. His new lantern is basically like a replica version of his own head, with the eyes sewn shut. And the mouth is all stretched out, wide open. That's where the light shines through. Actually, it looked like Bray, but it also kind of looked like Rob Zombie a little bit. I don't know if they were going for that on purpose. But clearly it's modeled after Bray. This was legitimately disturbing to look at. He set the lantern down on the apron. They zoomed in on it. You can see the picture on your screen right now if you're listening live on YouTube. Tell me that isn't a disturbing sight. Tell me that won't scare little children. That's what I love about it. Bray came across here like a bigger star than he ever did at any other point during his career. I don't think I have seen... I'm trying to think if I've ever seen somebody, and actually, you know what? The last time I would have seen it, and it wasn't really for entrances though, but the first time that ironically, the Wyatt family and the Shield had that 6-man, at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view back in 2014, they hadn't even touched yet. I think the bell rang, the match started, and they got chants of, if I remember, I think it was holy shit. I think it was holy shit chants. But this would have been the first time that I can recall that we have seen somebody get a holy shit chance, or chant rather, just for their entrance. I'm sure it's happened before, but I can't think of a time right off the top of my head. So Balor got some offense in here. Not a lot. And Bray won by pinfall after putting Balor down with the mandible claw. They had a shot at the end. After the match was over, lights went out, and they had this great shot at the end. You heard the shrieking voices in the background and the laughing on a loop by Bray. And they zoomed in on this man. He was standing either on the ramp or on top of the stage. He had already left the ring in the dark. And he was standing on top of the stage, and they did this zoom in. He was standing on, kind of on the side with his head tilted looking at the ring, and they zoom in on him, the strobe lighting effect. He's wearing that mask. It looked like something out of a horror movie. I loved it. I absolutely adored what they did here with this guy tonight. And when the lights came back on, and Balor recovered, and he kind of came to, the crowd chanted, "This is awesome." I thought this was a tremendous debut, a tremendous reintroduction. As a first effort goes, they could not have done a better job. And I still say, this was the idea that I floated about a week or so ago. Because I didn't think Kofi Kingston was losing the championship on this show. I did not think that Randy Orton was winning the WWE title. But what I thought might happen, and what I would have done, and what I would still do, is they're going to want to book something big. A big match, a big angle, a big star, something. On that first Fox episode of SmackDown on October 4th. And you know what? I feel as strongly about it now as I did a week or two ago when I first floated the idea. I say, if Kofi is going to drop that championship, it should not be to Randy Orton. Kofi Kingston should drop that WWE Championship on October 4th on Fox to The Fiend. Just put the title on him. I mean, October 4th is still, where are we? What is today? August 11th. It's still 2 months. It's not a long time, but, you can still, you have a little bit of time to get people sort of acclimated to The Fiend. It's kind of quick, but Bray is not a rookie. Bray's been around the block a few times. We know who he is. So there's no harm in putting the championship on him so soon. You're going to put the championship on anybody? It's going to be The Fiend. That's what I would do. Put the title on him. And then do the Demon and the Fiend when Balor is ready to come back. If he's ready to come back in time for Survivor Series, you do the match at Survivor Series. The Demon against the Fiend for the championship. And guess what? Bray wins again. He is the first person on the main roster to beat the Demon. And then the Fiend can go on to defend the championship at WrestleMania against Aleister Black. Boom! There it is. Book it. That's what I'd like to see. Anyway, I'm sure you guys will chime in the chat if you feel differently. We are going to take your phone calls in a little bit as we near the end of this review. So there's the number on your screen. It should be popping up if you don't already see it. 989-282-SOLO. That is the phone number to call. There's somebody in the chat who says, so just give up on Kofi. What giving up on Kofi? Kofi Kingston has been WWE champion since WrestleMania. It's August. Where have you been? You make it sound like Kofi lost the championship a month later. Kofi's had the championship since early April. What do you want, to keep the championship on him for 5 years? I think they have done as good of a job as they can do with Kofi as far as making him look strong, putting him over a whole bunch of different people from Samoa Joe to Dolph Ziggler to Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens. He's gotten a lot of big wins. He didn't beat Randy Orton tonight. He might yet. I'm sure they're going to have a rematch at the next pay-per-view. He may beat Randy Orton there. What is this idea about you're just going to give up on Kofi Kingston? Kofi Kingston, he had his moment at WrestleMania. He's had as strong of a run, I think, as he could possibly be expected to have. He's gotten a lot of big wins. He's been largely protected. He's been more protected than some other people who have won the championship. I'll tell you that much. Rey Mysterio comes to mind. I'm sure I could think of a few others. But he's got to lose the championship at some point. Kofi Kingston is not going to be the star that you build around. This new version of Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, that character, he could be the biggest star that they have if they play their cards right. Does he need the championship? I guess you could say that he doesn't need it. He doesn't need to have a title. He's already over. After one night, this guy is over. But I'd like to see him get the championship and just dominate and go to at least WrestleMania. The Kofi title reign is going to end at some point. I don't know how long you expect this to go on for, but it's going to end. And it's going to end long before WrestleMania comes next year. So unless you turn one of the members of New Day, like Big E, for example, and I'm not so sure that it's a smart thing, frankly, to break up the New Day, although I'm all in favor of pushing a more serious version of Big E. But at some point, this title reign has to come to an end. And I don't want to hear from people who say, WWE gave up on Kofi Kingston. They're screwing Kofi Kingston. WWE, they have done everything that they could do with Kofi Kingston to make him out to be a worthy and respectable champion. Some people buy into it, some people don't. But you cannot say, and you can shit on WWE all you want to, all day long. God knows I do for a lot of different reasons. I will not shit on them for this. If Kofi loses the championship this week, I will not shit on WWE for this. They have kept that belt on him longer than I thought they would. But it's got to come to an end at some point. And you give me the option of who to go with as the guy that I want to build around on Fox? On that SmackDown show? Is it going to be Kofi? Is it going to be Bray Wyatt? What do you think? Who do you think I'm going with? 989-282-SOLO, 7656. We'll take your calls in a few minutes. We had the main event. Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship, Canada's own. Brock Lesnar. Or at least he used to live there. I'm not sure if Brock still lives there. Last I heard, he was living in Canada. I know he moved there a number of years ago, and he got some land. He's probably in the middle of nowhere with the moose. So I assume he's still there. This was a long match by Brock Lesnar standards. This went about 13 minutes. I mean, he had a WrestleMania match with Goldberg 2 years ago, I think it was, and that went 6 or 7 minutes, so this went double that. Seth Rollins comes out to a chorus of boos at the beginning of this match. Those boos would dissipate. They would disappear by the time this match was over. Rollins almost immediately hit a curb stomp and went for a pin. It was a great near fall. It reminded me of when Brock hit the F5 on John Cena at SummerSlam 5 years ago in the match where he squashed Cena. And almost right out of the gate, I mean, you know, there was a little bit of offense for about 15 seconds. And then Brock got him on his shoulders. He hit the F5, and the people in the crowd thought, that's it. It's over. And Cena kicked out, and Brock had a big smile on his face. So I thought they were going to go for the quick finish here. Brock kicked out. So I thought that was a clever near fall. And then Brock went into Brock mode. He was dominating for a while. He hit a bunch of German suplexes. A little bit later on, Seth gets Brock laid out across the announce desk outside, climbs up to the top rope, hits this gigantic frog splash from the top rope down through the table, through Brock. Back in the ring, he hits another frog splash, still can't put Lesnar away. Lesnar kicks out of the curb stomp, goes for an F5, and as Seth is falling, he lands on his feet. Rollins then kicks Brock in the gut, hits another stomp, and just like that, Seth Rollins is once again your Universal Champion in what I thought was a very good main event. I must give these men credit. They had what I thought was a very good main event. It went longer than I expected it to. It was more competitive than I honestly expected it to be. And their goal here was to really get Seth Rollins over again as the Beast Slayer. And he, you know, David versus Goliath, the whole thing. God knows Seth has not really come across in the best light over the last several weeks. I thought he looked like a fool. He looked like an idiot last week when he could barely move. And yet he walked on down to the ring to confront Brock Lesnar as though nobody knew what was going to happen and how that was going to turn out. You know, there's a fine line between booking somebody to look courageous and booking them to look like a moron. But I will give them credit. You know, by the time this match was over, they were cheering for Seth. They were on their feet. And Seth, honestly, you know what? This match that we saw tonight at SummerSlam, this is how the match at WrestleMania should have gone. What we got tonight is what the WrestleMania match should have been. If Seth is the chosen one and he's the one that they want as their champion, then this is the way it should have gone. It should have been a more competitive, longer match. Back and forth. Seth fights back. He gets the clean win. He doesn't have to give Brock a nut shot. You'll notice that. He didn't kick him in the dick. There were no dick shots that led to the finish in this match. This is what the WrestleMania match should have been between these two. And I thought what they ended up having was a very good main event. So when I look back at this show, I was not impressed until we got to Charlotte and Trish. I thought that was a very good match. I love seeing The Fiend. I thought it was a very good main event. I would say that this show was, frankly, more of a thumbs down show that now I would say is more thumbs in the middle, maybe trending up, but barely. But still, when I think of SummerSlam, my expectations are higher than what we got tonight. There is no reason for a show like SummerSlam, until you get to the last leg of the show, for you to be sitting around thinking, this is boring, or this is just not what a SummerSlam should be. There should have been more than just what we got here on this show for what's supposed to be one of the biggest shows of the year. In that respect, it was a disappointment, but they did kind of save the show there at the end a little bit, but not by much. This will not go down as one of the best pay-per-views of the year. This is the Twitter poll from, I guess I would have probably pulled this about an hour ago. So the results are higher now, but an hour ago we had 1,370 votes already, and there you see it. 67% thumbs up, 33% thumbs down. So, I'm going to check real quick here because I'm curious now if the results are any different than they were an hour ago, because that's a pretty, dominant average there. People giving this show a thumbs up, solid thumbs up, and right now it's not that much different. 2,300 votes, 66 thumbs up, 34 thumbs down. So, by and large, you guys seem to think that SummerSlam was a thumbs up show. That seems to be the consensus that I'm seeing here. Let me just check and see some of the more recent super chats that have come in before we start taking your calls here in a moment. I want to say, we got Zach Showalter here who says, justice for EC3. Yeah, what the hell's happened to EC3? It's a good question. Willie Eichard, shout out to the Chicago Slayer. We've got, let's see here, The Fiend, first badass theme since Ministry Undertaker. That comes from Yami. We got Happy Anderson here. Thank you again for the super chat. Mr. E, 1976. So thank you for the kind words. And again, we have Zachary Showalter making another donation. So thank you very much. Let's go ahead and take our first call here. I want to hear what you guys thought of the show here tonight. And we're going to start with a fellow Brooklynite, actually. We're going to start here in New York. We're going to start with Vitamin in Brooklyn, New York. Now, Vitamin, is that the name on your birth certificate?
That's definitely not the name on my birth certificate.
I didn't think so.
What's going on, Solomonster?
Oh, what's going on? We had a great main event, and we got to see The Fiend, so I'm actually in a pretty good mood overall.
Yeah, man. I think the show was pretty good. I think because, like you said, I think with SummerSlam we have a very, very high expectations, and prior years have delivered to a certain extent. So this one, it felt like this could have been Backlash or Payback or Stomping Grounds. It felt like it could have been any one of those shows. It didn't quite live up to SummerSlam. But Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar match definitely redeemed the way the show was going.
Yeah, no, I would agree. They had a very good match. I said before, they had what they should have done at WrestleMania. We got that match tonight. And Seth Rollins is now the new champion. We'll see. I don't know if they're going to continue this with him and Brock. I certainly don't want them to go back to Seth and Baron Corbin. Maybe we'll get Seth and Drew McIntyre. Maybe that's the next program that they're setting up for, and McIntyre will be next in line to get the shot. I guess we'll find out. Let's go to Garrett in Washington, D.C., the site of the first AEW on TNT coming up on October 2nd. Hey, Garrett, are Are you going? Are you going to be attending the AEW show? Were you able to get tickets?
Yes, I was able to get tickets, but only after like 2 hours in clicking on the pages or clicking tickets that said, "Oh, someone already grabbed those tickets." So it was a very frustrating day, to say the least, to buy tickets. But we've got some like middle in the seats, but we're probably getting closer seats from scalpers. So we'll still end up going to the show, but I'm sure it's going to be good.
Well, good. Enjoy the show. What did you think of the pay-per-view tonight?
I was pretty much burned out by like the 5th hour of the show. Nothing really much happened. I agree with your synopsis of saying that Trish and Charlotte was really like the good show match, and then later the main event was really good. I was with like big horror fans, and when they saw the Fiend, they were just not really impressed with like how WWE production wise handled it. They thought the match was cool. They thought the lantern was great, but they just didn't really. Yeah, I guess it didn't really click to them as much. It clicked for you and many of the wrestling fans, but overall, I thought the show was all right.
Well, I think, I think that if that's the case, I think you need new friends. But not everybody could be as smart as you and I. So anyway, but thank you for that. Let's move on here because we got a whole bunch of people trying to call in. Let's go to Elijah in Fresno, California. Elijah, you are on the air.
Hey, Jason. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you out on the West Coast?
It's going all right. Hot as hell here.
Hot as hell here, too. That's one thing we have in common.
Yep. But I got to say, it was the nicest episode of Raw Reunion.
It felt like it, didn't it? We had Trish, we had Goldberg, we had Brett. Brett actually made a cameo tonight. It feels like every week now feels like a Raw Reunion because they just keep bringing back the old names.
That's what they depend on.
Well, you know what? At some point, they're not going to be able to depend on that anymore, and that's when they're going to be in a lot of trouble.
For sure. But got a question. So you've been talking about, the Fiend should face Kofi Kingston in that first episode of SmackDown and thinking that that's too soon. Now, Rollins doesn't have a competitor coming up, so would it be a bad idea if they went in the way of having the Fiend face Rollins this soon?
You know what? I wouldn't say it would be a bad idea, but the Fiend would have to win. I mean, that's the thing. You have to keep this character strong for a while. I mean, eventually he's going to get beat, but he just debuted, and he is unlike any other character, any other personality that they have on this show, either show, Raw or SmackDown. So if you want to put him against Seth, then that's fine, but he's got to win. And Seth just got the championship back, and he's a Raw guy. When do you do that? I mean, do you do it at Hell in a Cell? Do you save it for Survivor? See, that's the thing. I'm not sure that really works. I would actually rather they do it on SmackDown. And if Kofi is going to lose at some point, have him be the one to lose to The Fiend and just sort of move on. Kofi had his run, and maybe he'll get it back at some point, but at some point you've got to move on. SmackDown needs all the oomph that it can get when they move over to Fox. It's not going to be easy. That show being on Friday nights, they seem to, I guess Fox seems to think they're going to do really well, and they're going to be promoting it on their NFL shows and during the World Series, and I'm sure they're going to get a lot of publicity, but I don't know. They make it sound like all of a sudden there's going to be 3 million new people watching SmackDown every week, and I just find that to be impossible. But I think that this character it's one of those things where you can't turn away. And I think you need as much of that on that show as you could possibly get. So what better way to feature him than to put the championship on him? Let's go to Noel in Brawley, California. Noel, you're on the air.
Hey, Jason, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
So what's your question? What did you think of the show tonight?
Overall, I thought SummerSlam was a good show. I know I was a little worried at first, given how good that NXT TakeOver Toronto show was last night. But overall, I think SummerSlam did good. I think it was a good show. So, I'm glad it all worked out, for the better. Now, obviously, the Universal Championship match closed the show, which was a no-brainer. I saw that coming a mile away. And, one of the things that's been bothering me about just the way this company has handled their 2 world titles, the Universal Championship and the WWE Championship, it's clear that the Universal Champion is the more the more prestigious and more valued championship in this company, which to me upsets me because, the WWE Championship over on SmackDown, given its longevity and its rich history, it sucks to see it where it's been positioned. And what I want to ask you is the way that they have valued the WWE Championship, because to me it kind of feels like they've kind of made it into a mid-card title. Would you consider that a slap in the face to the careers of people like Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Stone Cold, all of the greats who have held the WWE Championship, just to see where it's been positioned compared to the Universal Championship?
I don't think it's a slap in the face to any of those guys, because you gotta think about it the way that they look at it, right? Raw is their baby, and that's never going to change. SmackDown's going to go to Fox. That's a big deal. They're making a lot of money. And for a while, they may put a lot of the emphasis on SmackDown because they want to make sure they get off to a hot start. But at the end of the day, Raw is their flagship show. The championship on Raw is the tomato title. That's what I call it. You can call it the fruit roll-up belt. You can call it call it whatever you want. But the Universal Championship is the Raw title. And whatever the Raw title is, that's what the premier title is going to be. It's no different than when Triple H had the big gold belt on Raw in 2002, 2003, and the WWE title moved over to SmackDown. I mean, it did main event WrestleMania that year in 2003, but I think it has more to do with Raw and SmackDown than anything else. And as far as does it disrespect Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, I wouldn't look at it that deep. I wish that they would at least try to headline some pay-per-views with it. There were some people who thought they might headline with Orton and Kofi tonight. Not with that finish they weren't going to. But even if they had a clean finish with Kofi winning or Orton winning, I said there was no chance. If you thought for a second that they would even think of headlining this pay-per-view tonight with Kofi Kingston against Randy Orton, I don't care if they had 20 years of history behind this match. There was no chance of that happening. Just the way they've positioned everything on TV now for weeks, it was clear that it was always going to be Rollins and Brock. So it's a combination of Brock is their, I was going to call him their cash cow. I'm not sure if that's true, but Brock is their biggest attraction. Raw is their number one show. It's just the way it is. Do I wish they would feature the WWE title more strongly? Yeah, I wish they would, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that. Let's go to Sean in Byron, Illinois. Sean, you're on the air.
Hey, Solomonster. You feeling any better?
I'm feeling a little bit better, but I'll feel a lot better when this night is over and I get some sleep.
Right. All right. Well, I'll keep it short and sweet. First,
thank you.
I think it was the second or third year where, or not year, sorry, week where I think you answered a question and I get to talk to you. So, and I've been listening since 2013, so thanks for all you do. My question real quick is Becky Lynch and Bayley, I thought they had some pretty disappointing matches. Where do you see them going from here now?
Becky Lynch, as far as each champion?
Yeah, like, I know Clash of Champions, maybe multi-matches, but after Natalya, I'm just thinking, who else? Maybe you call someone up from NXT, or obviously Sasha Banks, but who knows?
Yeah. You know what? I think Shayna Baszler is coming up to the main roster. I know she's still got the championship in NXT. I think we're going to see her on the main roster within a few months. I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow night or anything like that, but I do think she's probably on her way up. I think it's time. Yeah, and we've seen NXT champions come up to the main roster while they're still the champion. Kevin Owens, when he first got called up, he was feuding with John Cena. He held on to the NXT championship for another 2 months, before he finally dropped it. We got the Street Profits on TV every week. I don't know what the fuck those two guys are doing. They're acting like a bunch of goofs on TV. I mean, look at the Street Profits tonight. All right, whatever. They had a fun little segment with Ric Flair, but they act like a bunch of goofs. And compare that with the Street Profits that we saw at TakeOver last night in that same building. Those are the Street Profits that I like to see. I don't know what the hell they're doing with them on TV. I guess that's their way of introducing them to the wider audience, I guess, but not what I would be doing with them, not the way that I would be using them. It's like they never wrestle on the main roster. But anyway, so yeah, I think Shayna Baszler will be up soon enough. I keep coming back to Sasha Banks, and I have no idea what's happening with Sasha. Sasha is, she keeps posting these photos on her social media channels. It's like 1 week she's got purple hair, and the next week she's got brown hair, and soon she'll post a photo and she'll have no hair. She'll be like Demi Moore in that movie. What was that movie that Demi Moore did where she shaved her head? She was like in the military or something. G.I. Jane, is that what it was? So we keep getting these weird social media posts, and then 1 week she's in Japan and she's training with wrestlers. I don't know what the hell's going on anymore, honestly, with Sasha Banks. The best opponent for Becky Lynch is Ronda Rousey. You want to rank the best opponents for Becky Lynch going forward? The number one best opponent for Becky Lynch still, after almost a year, is Ronda Rousey. And I have no idea when Ronda, or even if Ronda is going to be coming back. So you put her on the side. Who would be the next best opponent for Becky Lynch? Sasha Banks. And we have no idea when or if she will be back. So we have to just put her on the side as well. And then that's where the well runs dry. And I think bringing up a Shayna Baszler, calling back to her friendship with Ronda as an example, maybe she comes in. Maybe that's the whole, catalyst of their feud. I think that could work. Existing members of the Raw Women's roster, who is there? I don't want to see Natty. Natty lost. That's it. We're done. Finished. Natty got her shot because they were in Canada. So, next week they'll be back somewhere in Bumblefuck USA, and I don't need to see Natty getting a championship match anymore. So you move on from her. Lacey Evans had her shot. We're done with her. Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss, they're tag team champions. We've already seen Becky and Alexa. We don't need to see that again. We've got Alicia Fox, who apparently is one of the legends now, at least according to Raw Reunion. She was in there celebrating with all the legends. I'm like, I could have sworn that she's still listed as a member of the active roster. So I have no idea what her status is. I mean, think about it. Somebody bring up the Raw roster. I'm a little busy right now, but if you go on WWE.com, maybe I'm missing somebody. Who am I missing? Ronda, Sasha, Natty, Alicia, Alexa, Nikki, Nia Jax is out with an injury. Ruby Riott just had surgery. She's out with an injury. I think Sarah, what's her name? Sarah, oh God. Oh my God. The Riot Squad. Sarah, whatever her name is. I can't believe I just forgot her last. Somebody in the chat help me out. What's her last name? For God's sake. Sarah Logan. Thank you. Thank you, Filthy Thoughts. Sarah Logan. I think Sarah Logan is part of the Raw roster. Sarah Logan and Becky Lynch. Is that a money feud? No. Somebody said Naomi. I thought Naomi was part of SmackDown. You're telling me Naomi is part of Raw? Maybe she is. I don't know. I mean, Naomi is talented, but even the thought of Naomi and Becky Lynch doesn't do much for me. There's just not a whole lot there to work with, it seems like. Then you look at Bayley. I hope they keep the thing going with Ember. So that way, Ember can maybe do a turn at some point, become a little more interesting, and maybe she'll even take the championship away from Bayley. I am even less aware of what the women's roster looks like on that show. I guess you have Asuka and Kairi Sane. What they have done with Asuka is an absolute sin. It is an absolute sin what they are doing right now with Asuka and Kairi Sane. Asuka tapped out Becky Lynch at the Royal Rumble. She didn't just beat her. She tapped her out, and it's like it never even happened. And then a year from now, when we finally get Asuka in a championship match, we'll have people saying, well, you see, they're going to call back to the win that she got over Becky at that Royal Rumble last year. This was all part of the plan. Fuck you. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's never even acknowledged anymore. It's like it never even happened. It's a crime what they've done with this woman. Who else you got on there? Who else is on the SmackDown? Carmella? Oh, yeah. Ooh, wow, what a feud that'll be, huh? They got a real problem when it comes to these women challengers. They may have to call up a whole bunch of people from NXT. Not a lot of good options out there. Anyway, now that I've gone on that little rant, let's take a few more. Let's go to, God, we got a lot of California people calling in. I feel bad, all these people who are awake here on the East Coast. It's after midnight already. Let's go to, here we go. Let's go to area code 757. I have no idea what state. What state are you in, caller?
Virginia.
Virginia. All right, we got an East Coast guy here. Thank you for calling in. What do you think of the pay-per-view tonight?
Well, this pay-per-view was quite an interesting show, but I'm going to be honest. I couldn't really watch it because every time I tried to watch it, 80% of the show, it just kept buffering and buffering and buffering to the point where, will you please fix your live stream? It's been buffering since frame 1.
Yeah, you're not the only person who is complaining about that. It was awful. It's funny because I didn't have any issues with TakeOver the night before. I watched on actual TV and didn't have any issues. And I'm streaming on my laptop tonight, so it's easier to go back and forth and take notes. And it's just amazing. All of a sudden, the audio would stop, and I would check, and it paused, and I'm waiting. And so it wouldn't come back. I'd have to refresh the window. I would try to go back 10 seconds if I missed something, and then it would freeze. I don't know what is going on, but when I posted about that, I tweeted something, and the reaction I got like 200 comments from people saying, oh, I'm glad I'm not the only one. So whatever the issue was, clearly you and I were not the only ones experiencing it, and they better get that shit fixed for next time because, I'm one of the schmucks actually paying $9.99 a month for this network. I feel like everybody else gets it for free. Or they get these deals like 99 cents, you get 3 months of the network. I'm the moron paying $9.99 a month. There shouldn't be buffering issues when it comes to these pay-per-views.
Yeah, but I do have one more thing to say. Because if you notice, it's pretty fun. It's pretty funny how much can change in a year. Because if you notice, I remember once upon a time where everybody was all like, "Well, we don't like Roman Reigns. We don't like Roman Reigns being pushed down our throat. Push Seth Rollins. We like Rollins." But here we are a year later. Roman Reigns is lower on the card. No titles, no main events, and he's starting to get over with some of the crowd. And meanwhile, you got Seth Rollins, who's at the top of the card, top title, and now people are starting to hate him. Seriously, this irony is so thick. Tony Stark's gonna make a suit out of it.
Yeah, well, hey, that's because Seth Rollins has looked like a moron. So I don't blame those people at all. He has looked like an idiot. Some of the things he has said has been stupid. But he's a talented guy. And if he can keep his mouth shut and just go out there and wrestle and do what he does best, you know what? He'll win back a lot of those people. That's all he has to do. Let's go to Tyler in California. Tyler, you are on the air.
Hey, Jason. How's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. So just a couple thoughts about the pay-per-view. I feel, I went into the show only looking forward to the Fiend, and I think I was satisfied in that. I was also into Brock and Seth. Although I feel like Brock should have won, I did feel like they pulled the phenomenal match out, better than WrestleMania for sure. But my thoughts, or my question to you with Bray Wyatt, because there's a lot of different roads they can go down. There was a lot of symbolism, in his entrance with the lantern and him turning back. Him turning back to the ring really did symbolize like something with the Undertaker. It did remind me of the Undertaker looking back into the ring. Do you feel like the story they'll try to tell with him is maybe going and rewriting his past mistakes? So, like for example, he lost to Finn Balor. He righted that wrong today. He could fight maybe Randy Orton after he's done with this program of Kofi and then go on to The Undertaker or John Cena. Do you feel like they would maybe go to that direction, or do you feel that the best option would be just to put the title on him and build SmackDown around him?
Yeah, I don't think they have to do that. I think you just leave that in the past. I think the less you worry about his past, the better. And John Cena's not even around anymore, so he would be the one, honestly, because I trace it all the way back to that loss to Cena at WrestleMania. That's where everything started to go downhill for this guy. And Cena's not even around anymore. So I would leave the past exactly where it is. Leave it in the past. And look, whether you put the title on him in the next 2 months or you wait a little bit longer, just as long as he wins. And I want to see them do more of what they did tonight. At some point, they're going to shorten the entrance. Like when all these guys debut these new fancy entrances, they're really long and they're really elaborate. And then after like a month, they kind of give you the abbreviated version. So I know it's coming. It will come at some point. But he just has to keep winning and keep having nights like he had tonight. That's how you build a star. Why do you think Brock Lesnar is such a big star? You think Brock Lesnar is a star because when he came back to WWE, he lost every match he was in? He won 95% of the matches that he was in. He dominated. All of a sudden, the guy got over as a big star. Oh, wow. It's funny how that works. Just stay the course. Keep doing what you're doing. That's all they have to do. We have a call here from the Gold Coast, I am told, of Australia. Is that true?
Yeah, man. In Queensland.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing really, really good, man. I really enjoyed the show today. Really, really cool from top to bottom. Like in my opinion, if you can watch a show like SummerSlam 2019 and you don't find it entertaining, I don't really understand what you're in this for, because I don't see it getting any better than that. It was incredible.
So what do you think was the best match on the entire show?
Best match on the entire show. Now, I was born in 2000, so I didn't really see a lot of Trish Stratus. Like, my Trish Stratus experience was her match against Snooki at WrestleMania 27. Like, that's all I saw. So I was pleasantly surprised by how freaking good she was in this match. That top rope Hurricane Rana she hit was better than anything I've seen from at least that Divas era of the mid to late 2000s. Like, she's incredible. Just absolutely amazing.
I agree. No, I agree 100%. I thought that she looked great. It makes me very sad that your only frame of reference for her was the match with Snooki, but I guess I have to kind of remind myself sometimes that there are people watching now who were not watching, 20 years ago or 18 years ago, whatever it was, when she was first coming up. Actually, it's less than that. When she didn't really get good, I would say, probably looking at 2004-ish. It took her a while, I think, to really establish herself as being someone that people could take seriously. But she turned herself into a great wrestler, and she had that great feud with Mickie James in 2006. And I have to remind myself sometimes that there are people who don't really, know from those days because they weren't watching. But until you just mentioned it, I had totally forgotten about that match with Snooki, and I'm kind of depressed now that I think about that. But anyway, let's go to take a few more. Jamie in Portland, Oregon, you are on the air.
Hey there, Jason. How you doing, man? It's good to be talking to you again.
It's good to talk to you as well. What'd you think of the pay-per-view tonight?
It was interesting for me. I gave it I think I would rate it a C+. I thought there were things that obviously weren't all good compared to some more recent SummerSlams that we've had. I thought there were some fairly entertaining moments throughout. One thing that I haven't heard anybody mention so far tonight was, surprisingly, I thought the pre-show was fairly decent, fairly entertaining with the 24/7 championship, and also with Edge coming out at the end. I mean, I popped huge for that. It was a complete surprise to me. I really, really marked out for that moment.
Yeah, that was cool. I had not heard that he was there. I mean, I guess it makes sense because his wife is working there. I know his wife was on commentary, but that was a nice surprise. Sometimes that stuff gets spoiled. This one I don't think did. So, when his music hit, that was a nice little surprise.
And also, I don't know, I knew everybody was behind Bray Wyatt in this new change and everything, and I guess maybe I'm a little more cynical, a little more skeptical, given that, like you, I'm also a long time viewer of the WWE going back to the mid-'80s, so I see too many demon gimmicks, I guess, for my liking, with really cool entrances, and then once they get to the main roster, or how Vince likes to do, treat them like a cool entrance and nothing more, because I don't think he'll ever see anybody in the same light as he looks at The Undertaker. And it's a shame because no one will ever come close to being what The Undertaker is. And I don't think anybody's trying to be, but Aleister Black, Finn Balor, these guys can legitimately go in the ring, and it sucks to see them kind of get a push. We think that they're going to do something, and then for whatever reason, they kind of
Yeah.
I don't know if Vince just gets tired with his new toys too quickly or what.
Yeah, I think that's what I think it is. I think he gets bored, or he just, whatever it is. And sometimes there's silly stories. Somebody gets heat for some stupid reason or something. Or, sometimes guys get hurt and they could be injury prone. And that's one of the issues with Bray. And my hope with him is, I think they're all in on this gimmick, but all it takes is one injury. And if he gets a concussion, or he, tears a muscle or something, or breaks an ankle, all of a sudden his career could be, hitting the skids again. So hopefully he can stay healthy. He looks to be in great shape. I mean, he's smaller than he was before. It's hard to tell because he's in that full getup, but he's got all the tools right now to make this work. He seems to have support from the company. Apparently his merch was selling like crazy this weekend. They have these $50 replica masks, these Fiend masks that they were selling, and you can go on WWE Shop. They have the puppets. They have Ramblin' Rabbit that you can buy for like $35. And I tell you what, I was thinking about buying a Ramblin' Rabbit thing just to have as something in the background if I actually start doing videos soon. But you can go, and his merch apparently is just selling really well. You know what? That's the best possible thing for him. If he can sell a shitload of merch, you want to get this company, you want to get Vince McMahon's attention and get this company behind you, go ahead and sell a lot of merch. It worked for John Cena. How many shirts did this guy have? Blue shirt, green shirt, red shirt, yellow shirt, purple shirt, white shirt, polka dot shirt, because they sold. So they put him on TV more and more so he can wear his new merch. So they would sell more t-shirts. That's all this company is about. So I take that as a great sign. If his masks and stuff are flying off the shelf, great. Great. That can only be a good thing for his future. Let's go to Christopher in the hometown of Roman Reigns, Pensacola, Florida. You're on the air.
Hey, how we doing today, Solomonster?
You sound so excited that Roman Reigns is from your hometown.
Hey, they honor him. They have a little thing at Escambia High School where he played at for him, actually, at the school, 'cause that's where my oldest goes to. So they actually have a little thing there for him. But my question for you is, what do you think for SummerSlam, how that Cruiserweight title match went, and what do you think they need to do in the future with the Cruiserweight title? Do they need to keep it on the pre-show, or do you think they need to make it like they did in WCW where it was the opening match? Because I'm a big component of 205 Live, and 205 Live matters. So that's my question for you about the SummerSlam match for the Cruiserweight title.
Yeah, I was disappointed, and I don't want to say that I was disappointed that the match was horrible. I missed most of it because that was when I was having the most issues, and I think a lot of people were having a big issue with their stream. I also wonder if it really messed with these guys' heads because they were supposed to be on the pay-per-view, the actual pay-per-view, and then they got bumped. It was the only match that got bumped, and they opened the pre-show. So, and when I say open the pre-show, the first match, I should say, on the pre-show. So the building was half empty. So you've got these two guys who you have to imagine a good part of the crowd may not be familiar because they don't watch 205 Live. They're playing to a half-empty house. And what did they give them? 10 minutes maybe? I have to go back and check the match times. So I had higher hopes for this match. Oney Lorcan, if you ever watch an Oney Lorcan match, when he gets going, Oney Lorcan is awesome. And Drew Gulak is too. And it just didn't seem to me, from what I saw, like it really kicked out of that first gear. So I think these two could do a lot more. They could do a lot better. 205 Live, when I'm able to tune in, they've had some pretty damn good matches. I've seen Chad Gable and Jack Gallagher, and I think they even had Shane Strickland, who's down at the Performance Center, and they had him on NXT. It might have been against Gulak a few weeks ago. So the action and like the big main events that they have on that show, I mean, they're kicking ass as far as some of the wrestling on that show. But good luck trying to get a big chunk of the audience interested and invested in watching it. So if 205 Live disappeared off the face of the earth, I wouldn't even notice. So if you're asking me personally, yeah, I would adopt almost like a Nitro-esque formula. And maybe you do this with SmackDown. When SmackDown moves to Fox and you feature a whole bunch of really hot cruiserweight matches. And when I say hot, let these guys go out there, even if it's over a commercial break or something, let these guys go out there and tear shit up. Let these guys loose. Let them go do what they do best. Enough with these stories about, I'm going to work over the leg. Do you know how many fucking stories I have seen on WWE television between TakeOver and SummerSlam and the last pay-per-view? This guy's going to work over the leg. He's going to work over the knee. Hey, I'm all for wrestling psychology. I think that's great. How many times can we see the same story about working the guy's leg, working the guy's knee, grounding him? Oh, how exciting. Let's ground Ricochet. I know how to make this match more exciting. We'll take the guy on the roster who, probably more than any other single person they have under contract, can do such amazing things and acrobatics and all the flips and everything he does. And I know what we'll do. We'll ground him. We'll hurt his knee so he can't do as much of the flippy shit as he normally does. That'll be exciting. Let these guys go out there and do what they do. Get the energy up on some of these shows. Because I don't know about you guys. I don't have time. There's not enough time in the week for me to stick with 205 Live consistently. And once AEW debuts, there'll be even less time. So yeah, I'd love to see them sort of merge, in a way, 205 Live. You know, maybe into the SmackDown brand once they go to Fox. And add the Cruiserweight Championship. If you want to keep that title, that's fine. They should have something to fight for. But I also am not a big believer that the Cruiserweights need to be kept just to their weight division. There's no reason you can't have Chad Gable in there against one of the bigger stars on SmackDown. Why should Chad Gable not be allowed to wrestle Randy Orton? Why should Chad Gable not be allowed to wrestle Finn Balor? They're about the same size. You gonna give me that weight class nonsense? So yeah, let those guys go on SmackDown. And let them do what they do best. Take the handcuffs off and stop handcuffing these guys. You know, I mean, they do too much of that stuff. It just annoys me. Eddie in the Bronx. What's going on, Eddie?
What's going on there, buddy?
Crazy Eddie here on the Sound Off.
Yeah. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm pretty good, man. Can't complain.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't be a wrestling fan if you did. Surely you must have something to complain about.
No, I mean, of course I do. I mean, well, why are they letting Finn Balor get so much offense on Bray Wyatt? I think Bray Wyatt should just squash them. He should squash them twice and then have the Demon come out and then have a well-fought match against the Demon.
Yeah, you know, I didn't mind it so much. I expected Balor to get a little bit of offense. I didn't think it was going to be just, you know, he wasn't going to be able to get a move off. But, you know, whatever. They gave him a little bit of offense. And it's not like Bray was, you know, flopping around all over the place selling for him. So I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was fine.
Yeah. But I thought the show was better than I expected. You know, I wasn't looking forward to anything crazy, but that Bray Wyatt shit, he's a creepy motherfucker.
Yeah.
That's some creepy shit.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? You would be too. Hey, Eddie, you know, if you walked around with a replica head of yourself everywhere you went, you'd have a lot of people pointing at you thinking you're creepy too.
Yeah, man. I have a quick question. I don't want to hold you up too long. I've been wanting to ask you this. This has nothing to do with SummerSlam, but buy or sell real quick. Jon Moxley's debut or Lex Luger's debut? Which one do you buy or sell? Which one had the most impact?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, Lex Luger's debut. I mean, it's not even a contest. Are you kidding me? Lex Luger's debut. And there's probably people listening who weren't alive back then or weren't watching wrestling who have no idea why Lex Luger's debut was such a big deal. But, you know, if you were a fan back then and you lived through that Monday Night War period and you saw Lex Luger come out on Nitro that time at the Mall of America, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. There is no comparison at all whatsoever. Lex Luger walking out there was like a gunshot, you know, it was like a shot fired that really kicked off that whole Monday Night War. I'm not really exaggerating much when I say that. That was a big deal. You know, when Luger showed up on Nitro, and I think the very next week, he was already having a match with Hulk Hogan. You know, I mean, that's how big of a deal it was. So all these people who were going to say, oh, Jon Moxley is, What a much bigger debut that was. These are all new fans. These are all, big A. I mean, look, I'm an AEW fan too, but, I'm an AEW fan that has some common sense. And I certainly am not going to sit here and say that was a bigger deal than Lex Luger on Nitro, because that's just foolish. Let's go to Jordan in Georgia. Jordan, you're on the air.
Oh, wow. Hi. This is Jordan. I've met you a bunch of times.
Hey, Jordan. Yeah, I saw you. I'm doing very well. I saw you've been holding on there for a while, for almost an hour. So I wanted to make sure I got to you. So what did you think of the pay-per-view tonight?
So the parts I watched most of it. Stuff I was kind of like, yeah, okay, I don't care. No offense to the people who like Brock Lesnar. I thought, be honest, I had so much low expectations, because there are times when I would look at a WWE pay-per-view and it'd be like, this has the potential to be great, and then it's like, oh, Nakamura and AJ Styles, no contest, are kicking each other in the balls.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. But I mean, like, on the whole, if you had to pick the one match tonight that you enjoyed the most or thought was the best match on the entire show, what would that be?
Well, as you know, I'm a big women's wrestling fan. That was the first wrestling match I ever saw when I was a kid, was a women's match. So Trish Stratus really impressed the hell out of me, because I didn't think it would be that good. I've been very critical of her over the years. I've met her. She's so nice and very humble, and I really was impressed by that. I love the figure 8 spot, and the crowd was really great. I was a little disappointed. The Ricochet stuff was really great. My mom, I'm actually not in New York right now. It's still hot in Georgia, but my mom saw the Ricochet match, and she really liked that. She liked the flippy stuff, kind of.
Well, I mean, if she's a female, I would imagine that Ricochet is probably a fan favorite amongst most of the women watching the show anyway.
I'm going to try to be appropriate.
Or maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I have it wrong. Maybe I'm not in tune with all that stuff. I just assumed he would have been a fan favorite amongst the female audience, but hey, maybe I'm wrong.
I've met him before too. He's actually really nice. I have 2 questions. I don't want to keep you too long. Also, congratulations on the book for your mom. That was a really great. I loved reading that. That was so heartwarming to read.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So the 2 questions I have, one is like kind of off topic, but it's something I've wanted to pick your brain about for a while. So let's say in a perfect world here, Asuka stayed in NXT, because she's probably my favorite. I love her style. I used to practice it in my Muay Thai class. But say she stayed in NXT and kept the undefeated streak and kept the title. Who do you think would have been the one to beat her? Kairi Sane, Shayna Baszler, Bianca Belair, Io Shirai, Toni Storm? Who would you have thought they would have done it with? I kind of have a feeling I know the answer, but...
Well, see, my answer is, and thank you for the call, but my answer is probably more a matter of who would I have wanted to see her against. And I think, especially now that I'm watching this heel version of Io Shirai on television, the idea of getting Asuka against Io for the championship in NXT would have been awesome. And who knows, maybe one day it can still happen. I would much rather Asuka just go back to NXT and fight her there than have Io come to the main roster, because I guarantee you, no matter how good Io Shirai might be in NXT, it's all well and good. If she comes to the main roster, she's done. Asuka was a perfect case study. She's done. She's finished. I don't think I ever want to see her on the main roster. I just want to see her dominate in NXT. Because it is obvious to me that they just do not know how to use some of these women. If they don't speak perfect English, then it's to the scrap heap with them. Then you're just not important. You're not a priority. And if that's their attitude, then that's fine. But then just keep her in NXT. Don't let her be like Asuka and flounder and not do anything. But that's the match that I would have done. That's the match that I would have loved to have seen. You have a friendship between them. It goes sour. Io goes heel. I mean, Asuka's a great heel, too, if you ever watched her in Japan. I mean, I've seen some of her matches, and she can be pretty vicious. But heel Io against Asuka for the championship in NXT, it's the match that we missed out on. And who knows? Maybe one day it can still happen. Let's take two more. And I hope they're good ones. But let's go to... Let's see here. We got Moses in Pennsylvania. Moses, you're on the air.
Hey, Jason, how you holding up tonight?
I'm holding up pretty good here. It's after 12:30, and I am hanging in there. I am trying to, I was going to say stay awake, but I'm just trying to keep it together here because I think I'm getting sick. But other than that, everything's cool.
Make sure you keep up with your orange juice and sleep.
Well, I don't have either one of those things, but I'll do my best. What did you think of the pay-per-view tonight?
Well, I just got off work, and I was able to catch the main event. I was just thinking about, where does Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar go from here? You mentioned Seth Rollins going into a match with Drew McIntyre, but where does Brock Lesnar go from here? I know you mentioned in your podcast recently about maybe Matt Riddle being the one to retire Brock Lesnar. I was thinking maybe Matt Riddle goes into a Royal Rumble with Brock Lesnar, eliminates Brock, and Brock beats the hell out of Matt, and then they go to WrestleMania. I'm wondering, how would you book Brock Lesnar versus Matt Riddle?
Wow, how would I book Brock Lesnar against Matt Riddle? I want it to be more competitive than most Brock matches are. I know Riddle obviously is physically a little smaller than him, but they come from a similar fighting background, so at least they have that in common. So I think we would see a lot of that style of combat. Brock would toss him around, but Riddle is the kind of guy, if you ever watch his matches, on the Independents and in Evolve and stuff, his style. He had that match on Evolve recently with Drew Gulak, oh my goodness, the catch, what's that, what they call it, catch weight or catch rules, whatever they called it. But he could probably twist you into a pretzel if he wanted to. Matt Riddle is a guy who can go, and I just want to see a knockdown competitive fight between them. And if Brock wins, then that's cool. Although Riddle has wanted for years to be the one to retire Brock Lesnar. As long as they keep paying Brock Lesnar what they pay him, he ain't going to retire anytime soon. So this whole thing about retiring Brock Lesnar is just a pipe dream. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But that doesn't mean they can't do the feud. So I'd be all for Matt Riddle and Brock Lesnar. I don't see that happening anytime soon. I look at the main roster, and what do? You've already done Brock and Braun, so you don't really want to go back to that. Brock and Seth, let's say they move away from that. We've seen Brock and Roman. We've seen Brock and Goldberg. We've seen Brock and Undertaker. We've seen Brock and Samoa Joe. You're running out of options here. We've seen Brock and Randy Orton, Brock and Finn Balor. Who hasn't Brock Lesnar gotten into the ring with? In terms of, even Kofi Kingston. Before Kofi Kingston became WWE Champion, and he was still just another member of New Day, Beast in the East, remember that? 2015. He manhandled Kofi like he was nothing, like he was a piece of garbage. Yeah, I don't want to see that again. I don't know what you do with Brock Lesnar. I keep coming back to Matt Riddle. I think Riddle would be the one, but I don't see him being called up anytime soon. I'd have to think about this. I'd have to think about who currently on that main roster. I mean, you've got a Drew McIntyre. McIntyre is a big dude. I think people underestimate how physically big he is. So you could always do, Lesnar and McIntyre. The thing with Brock is you've got to keep him strong. He just lost. He did the job to Seth Rollins. He put Rollins over. Whoever Brock is going to get in the ring with next, he's got to win. And I'm just not sure at putting him in there with Drew and having him beat McIntyre. I'm not sure what that does for Drew. So I'd have to think about this a little bit. And let's go to Luke in Norristown, Pennsylvania. Got another Pennsylvania caller here. Luke, you're on the air.
Yeah, representing PA till we die. How you doing, Solomonster?
Good. How are you? You close to your phone or your mic? Try to get a little closer if you can.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
There
I'm
you go.
closer
Perfect.
now. My fault.
No problem.
How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you? What'd you think of the show tonight?
I'll be honest with you. I thought the show was kind of a piece of shit.
Really? Wow. Okay. Well, that's getting to the point.
Yeah. I tuned in at the Charlotte and Trish Jazz match. I thought was pretty good. But then all after everything else happened, Bray Wyatt was cool, but so much so that's not going to save the show. I'm really tired of Seth Rollins. I'm not a big fan of his, especially these past couple of weeks. He's been, kind of self-fellatiating himself on Twitter, so I'm not a big fan of that. But you know what? To each their own. I'm just not a big fan, and I'm just, kind of curious where they're going to go from here. I think I kind of overestimated the show because it was a SummerSlam, and I thought it, kind of fell flat.
Yeah, I think we all have these, and thank you for the call. We all have these expectations because a lot of us have been watching long enough where we remember a lot of these great SummerSlam shows. Whether it was even 2013, I thought 2013 was a great SummerSlam, at least in terms of the top matches. 2002, but that's going back a long time. We sometimes forget how many years have gone by since those great shows. Maybe mediocrity is just the new norm. It's tough to accept. I think mediocrity is the new norm in WWE. I don't know why I just came to this conclusion now. It's been pretty obvious for a while. And so we have mediocrity, and we expect it to be better than it actually is. But I have to mention this. People, and I can't believe I feel foolish for forgetting about this because God knows I've been pitching this idea for so many years. But thank you to everybody in the chat who reminded me about Cesaro. It's very easy to forget about him. That is a match I've been calling for years. Brock Lesnar against Cesaro. He'd be the perfect opponent for Lesnar if Lesnar needs somebody to beat, before the next time he loses to a bigger name, let's say, or somebody else. Look, if Cesaro loses, he loses, but at least it would give him a chance to shine against one of the big stars in the company. Physically, he's a freak of nature. I would love to see him do some power spots with Brock and throw Brock around the way that Brock throws everybody else around. You don't think it would be cool if in the middle of this match, Brock is tossing him around with Germans like he does everybody else, and then all of a sudden Cesaro muscles him up and he starts German suplexing Brock all over the ring? You don't think that would bring people to their feet? I just think it would be a great match to watch. Just one time. Competitive match. Brock wins. He has to fight for it. But he gets a big win in the end. And then he moves on to whoever his next program is going to be with. It's an easy way to, kill a pay-per-view. So that probably would be my answer. I think Brock and Cesaro. And you've got history there with Cesaro and Heyman that you can draw from. Yeah, that's a match I would definitely like to see. And we'll probably end with this. Let's go to David in Ohio. You are on the air.
Hello, Solomonster. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. I am tired, but I am happy that the stream has cooperated and gone well. I think my stream had less glitches than the WWE Network did tonight for this pay-per-view.
Oh, I know that. Trust me, I've been having problems all night.
Oh, boy.
And I'm freaking tired from it, too.
Well, what'd you think of this pay-per-view?
But I actually really enjoyed it, especially near the end with the Bray Wyatt stuff.
So you would say that
because,
was so you would say that was your favorite part of the show, or did you have a favorite match?
Oh, absolutely. I actually thought that the Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar match was better than I expected, and a lot of people would expect too, because how physical they both got, especially Brock.
Absolutely, no, I agree. I agree 100%. I'm just trying to speed along here. Actually, there are two more people I want to try to get to here. Manny in Hawthorne, California. Are you there?
I am here, Jason. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Manny. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I really enjoyed the pay-per-view. It excelled all expectations, in my opinion. I didn't really think it was going to be all that good. It's just, a few things that could have, definitely made it a whole lot better. Perhaps, a return from Sasha Banks or even Ronda Rousey. Well, that could have definitely put it to another level.
I agree, but at the end of the day, we can't really blame WWE. I'm sure they would love to have them back in a heartbeat. It's up to them. They have to want to come back.
Yeah, for sure. But again, nothing pushed the storyline. There's nothing that we can really anticipate. If anything, it's probably a Hell in a Cell match between Kofi Kingston and Randy Orton. That's probably the only thing we see. Anything other than that is okay, where do we go from here?
I just hate this idea, and I've said this for years, this idea that it's October, so we have to do Hell in a Cell. Mm-hmm. I hate that.
Yeah,
I hate that with a passion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like that's probably the match, and that's probably the main event match that we'll finally get for the SmackDown title. Earlier you mentioned Ember Moon being heel, and I saw some tendencies of that in her match with Bayley, in just the way that she was moving around and grounding her. Like, she was working really slowly, and that's kind of like what a heel does. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see that in the future.
Yeah,
which I think would be really great.
Yep. I would say
I wouldn't mind seeing like.
Yep. No, I agree. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Let's go to Mohammed in Chicago. You are on the air.
Hey, Jason. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I've been waiting for 1 hour. Finally, you got me.
I know. I felt bad because I just looked and I said that, boy, this guy's been waiting for an hour. I better get to him now.
Yeah, thank you. So I do have two questions for you. First of all, what do you think about Becky? Because she didn't got any big opponent this SummerSlam, whereas Charlotte got Trish Stratus. So what do you think about that?
I was okay with it because I think people would have been complaining a lot more if Charlotte was challenging for a championship. And so I didn't have a problem with her being in the kind of special attraction match, and that left Becky to go ahead and defend her championship. I wasn't a fan of Natty being in the match. She doesn't do anything for me. And they only did it because they were in Canada. And, they ended up having a decent enough match, but I don't need to ever see it again. So hopefully they can move on from this.
And my last question is, what do you think about Fiend? Because he looks like a mini Kane from 1996. Do you think he can have the same impact that Kane had in 1996, 1997?
Well, it's funny, and he debuted at the end of 97 in that Hell in a Cell. And I still maintain that the best debut ever, at least in this company, was Kane. Kane had the best debut. Jericho, maybe you could say, is number 2. I don't know where Wyatt's re-debut tonight ranks. It's not number 1, but it's pretty high up there. And I draw a lot of comparisons between him and Kane, the mask, the dark character, all that kind of stuff. And if they can book him the way they book Kane, then guess what? He's going to be in real good shape because they protected Kane, and Kane is somebody who I guarantee you, even in that company, that there were people when Kane debuted who thought, all right, we'll do this for a few months, maybe a year, and that'll be it. Kind of going to come in and get a few big wins, and then he'll feud with The Undertaker as his brother. Undertaker will beat him, and he'll be just another big guy that The Undertaker feuds with who moves on to something else. And Kane was in that company. I mean, technically, he's still part of WWE. Over 20 years. Over 20 years. You cannot tell me that there were a lot of people who expected that this guy would survive in that company and still be a big star. He was part of the Authority, and he was in that Crown Jewel match last year in Saudi Arabia. He's not like he's some kind of jabron. He has been featured by and large as a top or near top of the card guy for 20 years. I would say that's a pretty good run. And you know what? If the Fiend can have even half the run that Kane had, he'll be in good shape. But the key is to protect him like they protected Kane. If they can do that, this guy's going to be... The sky's the limit. Sky's the limit as far as how big this guy can be. And we will end for real this time with Mike in Missouri. You are on the air.
Oh, crap. Wow.
Oh, crap. You're on the air.
Hey, Solomonster, how's it going?
Weren't expecting that, cool. Were you?
No, actually, I was not. I guess the standard question, the pay-per-view was cool. The whole thing with the Fiend was actually pretty dope, but I just want to ask you a question, just not about, about wrestling, of course. But I saw how Ricochet came out dressed up like Nightwing.
Yes.
And what's her name? Alexa Bliss was Buzz Lightyear. And, of course, the Fiend thing was cool, and Gargano last night as Wolverine. Who do you think... And this is a really dumb question. People probably don't even care. But who do you think had the coolest gear of the weekend?
Huh. Well, I mean, come on. I mean, the answer is obvious, I would think. Right? I mean, the coolest...
Well, I would say Ricochet. That's the answer, but go ahead.
Well, no, Ricochet had, thank you for the question, Ricochet had cool gear. I think I even said that when I was doing my review. It kind of reminded me a little bit, because I remember Ray having the full bodysuit for that Halloween Havoc match. It was, I mean, a different kind of suit. But, yeah, no, he looked cool, but I can't bet against the Fiend. I'm all in on this Bray Wyatt character. The leather jacket, the gloves, the mask, most of all the mask. Even the dreads and everything, it just works. It just works. And I'm big into horror movies, so all the different, like, horror elements, not just the mask, but just everything about that character, because I am a fan of that kind of stuff. I'm just totally, I'm totally all in on that. So the coolest gear to me, I'm going to go with Bray. And yeah, I guess by default, I would say Ricochet. I'm trying to think of who else kind of in terms of their gear. I don't really pay too much attention to, unless it's something really just far out there. I don't really pay too much attention to what people are wearing, as long as they're wearing something. Then that's really all that matters to me. So, anyway, I think we're going to wrap up there. We got some good calls tonight. I appreciate everybody. Let me just check real quick here, because we had, I think, a few more people who may have submitted super chats. Actually, we had one more. Young Bibby, thank you very much. He says, Carmella is talented. She has the fan support. So Young Bibby is a big Carmella fan, apparently, which is fine. Carmella is, the 24/7 stuff is entertaining enough. I just don't need to see her challenging for a championship. That's all. Because she had her chance. She had her run. And now it's time to give other people some chances. Nothing wrong with that. Always good to give new people a chance. Don't forget the Twitter poll is still up. It's actually going to be open for a couple more days, so you can still vote in that poll up on my Twitter page, @Solomonster. What did you think of the SummerSlam pay-per-view tonight? Oh, tell me that image on the screen right now is not just the creepiest shit in the best possible way. I love that. I love that. If they sell a Wyatt lantern that looks like that, I will buy that. I will buy that and use that as the lamp in my bedroom. That's how creepy this thing is. But again, vote in the poll. Let me know what you thought. Thumbs up, thumbs down on the SummerSlam show tonight. This entire live stream, hopefully barring any kind of catastrophe with YouTube, will be archived within the next few hours once I end the stream here. So you will be able to go back and listen if you missed anything. I'm going to try to maybe record an extra tomorrow covering the G1 and the G1 final, which is going to be taking place actually in a few hours. I won't spoil what that is in case people haven't watched it yet. But it depends how I feel. I really hope I'm not coming down with something. This sucks. I get my one day off tomorrow, and I'm probably going to be sick as a dog. But I will try to possibly record something for that. There'll be the usual clips going up on the YouTube channel throughout the week from this week's podcast. Next Sunday, episode 613. Stream us on Pandora. We are now on there. Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, all the usual platforms. Thank you for all of your support. I greatly appreciate it more than you'll ever know. Until next time, be well. Stay safe. Next pay-per-view coming up is going to be All Out. I will be doing a live stream for the AEW pay-per-view coming up on August 31st. So do join me live after All Out goes off the air at the very end of the month. We'll be talking AEW. And I will see you back here on the YouTube channel very soon. Until then, take care, everybody. Have a great night.
The Solomonster Sounds Off.
Harlem Heat 2000, Techno Team 2000, LOD 2000, WrestleMania 2000. Anything as a rule of thumb with 2000 in the name, you know it sucked.
The Solomonster Sounds Off, available wherever you hear podcasts, including iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and more. Want more content? Visit youtube.com/The Solomonster for sound off extras and more. And follow The Solomonster on Twitter @Solomonster.
Put that cigarette out. Solomonster Sounds Off.